Hello, Windy City travelers and explorers. I'm Andy. I'll be your friendly neighborhood tour guide today with Free Tours by Foot Chicago. And I'm starting today in a very unique spot. This is perhaps the most important landmark in Chicago history, which is the site of Fort Dearborn, the first ever outpost in the city of Chicago before it was a city, way back in 1803. I am starting here for a reason. This is a brand new channel, and I was thinking as I was developing the content schedule, where do people want to go? What do people want to see? What do they need to see? And I kept coming back to the downtown area, but I couldn't pick. Is it the Loop? Is it the Riverwalk? Is it Mag Mile? And then I thought, maybe it's all of them. So I'm actually going to start the channel by giving you a lay of the land of the major downtown neighborhoods, places where you are most likely to stay when you visit, or if you're not planning a trip anytime soon, giving you a view, that wind is really strong, giving you a view of our downtown area to give you a real feel for what it's like. So what I'm going to do today is we're going to cross the Michigan Avenue Bridge, or the DeSable Bridge. We're going to head north up onto Mag Mile, just briefly. I'm going to then show you just a bit about what makes Mag Mile special. We're going to turn then and head west on River North, show you a bit of that neighborhood, come back to the Riverwalk as we head to the Loop downtown area. And then I think at the end, I'm going to pop into the Chicago Cultural Center and give you a beautiful view of that entirely free space. Give you a glimpse of Millennium Park and actually travel right back here. So we're going to do a big old circle. I hope you will join me as we explore. Now keep in mind, this is just a highlights. I almost wanted to call it a Taste of Chicago video, but that is already a thing in Chicago. So I am instead just calling it a highlight tour of our downtown neighborhoods. And I'll say this a couple times, but I plan to do in detail tours of all of these neighborhoods on this channel. So we will have specific videos for each of those in the future. And if you're seeing this in the future and we have those already up, please go explore them. But for now, this is actually only the second video on this channel. So if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell. It is currently very early spring, so before our tourist season, so the streets will be a bit less crowded than normal. It's starting to snow, so you'll see my hands are very cold. So one thing to know right off the bat is when you're visiting Chicago, check the weather, because we can still be cold even in the spring. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and get the camera turned around and we'll start walking. So as I mentioned, we are currently standing on the Chicago landmark at the site of Fort Dearborn, which we have in our city actually laid out the original layout of the building in these bronze markers that you'll see all along Michigan Avenue. And they're really easy to pass as you walk if you're not looking for them, but you can actually get a full layout of the entire building, both on the north and south side of Wacker. And here, as an entrance to the bridge, you're seeing a depiction of the famous Battle of Fort Dearborn, which took place as part of the 1812 war, where the fort would be destroyed. We would rebuild the fort in 1816, and it would stay around until I think it's 1856. And the story kind of goes that it kind of just faded away as the city grew around it. Now we are walking across the Lake Michigan Bridge, renamed the DeSable Bridge after Chicago's first settler, which was John Baptiste Point DeSable, a black man who was our first settler who made his home right over there. Give you a view of the beautiful Chicago Tribune across the street. You can also see the Wrigley Building. Gorgeous tower here. These were both built in the 1920s, which was the start of Magnificent Mile. This entire area here actually began, its first building was the Wrigley Tower, because, hello, I love our locals, they're so friendly. Because, believe it or not, the reason Fort Dearborn first stood on that land as our first settlement was because this all used to be the lakefront. Lake Michigan actually used to start right here, which means that all of the beautiful buildings you're seeing to the south and north are all standing on man-made land. I know that is hard to believe. Hopefully the street noise isn't too terrible. As I mentioned, this is a brand new channel, so everything is only going to improve. You can see the Wendella tours there. It's a great boat tour if you're thinking of traveling on the water while you're here. We love our architecture boat tours. All of the companies that give them are wonderful. People always ask me for a favorite, and it changes. I'll take a different tour and I'll have a new favorite company. They really are. There's not one to avoid, for sure. But as I mentioned, things will only improve. So if I'm a little shaky with the zoom or the panning, or if the audio is not maybe at its peak, these things will only improve over time. And I appreciate your patience as I learn as well. We're up close and personal now to the Wrigley Tower. This is the bridge that connects the two, the north and south towers. Absolutely beautiful buildings. And like I said, we're gonna keep it moving today, but I will definitely do a Mag Mile tour in which we will visit all of these spots and talk in depth about the architecture, the architects, the time period that they were built, what they do now, such as the Chicago Tribune, of course, was headquarters for our newspaper for decades and decades. And they just recently moved out, and that is now being converted into luxury apartments. To my right, over on the east side, you're seeing the NBC Tower, which a lot of people think was built at the same time as the others. It was not. It was actually built in 1989. It was just meant to replicate the existing architecture of this area. So now I'm on Michigan Avenue and I'm traveling north, and this is essentially Mag Mile. All started right here at the waterfront and expanded as we go. Today it's all high-end and luxury shopping. We also have the Starbucks Roastery, which is a great thing to check out during your visit. Along with the John Hancock Tower, which we should see in just a minute for the 360 Chicago experience. I'm certain that this street traffic is very loud. And there she is. The John Hancock Tower is this black building here with these tall piers on top. And that is where you can do the 360 experience of going up to the 94th floor and seeing gorgeous views of our city. Also a great bar up there is the Signature Room or the Signature Lounge, which is a great place to get a drink and some food with a view. Now to my right, to the east, if we would walk that way, we would be at Navy Pier, which is a good hike from Mag Mile. I'd say it's about 15-20 minutes, depending on your pace. I tend to walk fast when I'm alone. If you've been on my tour, you know I always have to walk slow. But Navy Pier is another wonderful area that's completely walkable if you are staying downtown on Mag Mile, which this is where most people tend to stay. So this street is Mag Mile. We're actually going to make a left here, and I'm going to show you a bit of River North. River North is just a neighborhood adjacent to Mag Mile that is still very much the downtown area for tourists and locals alike. And pardon our sirens. That will likely not be the last siren that we hear today. Now I don't know if you can see, but the Ferris wheel is actually right there off in the distance. So Navy Pier, it gives you a sense of just how close or how far Navy Pier is. You could walk from here, and we also have a lot of landmarks to help our visitors out, which is great. So we'll have walkways designated to tell you right where to go to Navy Pier. I'm going to turn left on Ohio up here. Now, just a little bit about me as you are new to the channel. I actually moved to Chicago in 2015. I'm initially from Pennsylvania. And when I moved here, one of my biggest kind of worries was the transit system. I remember being very worried that I wouldn't be able to figure out the trains, and I was so delighted when I moved here and found out that we keep it really simple. We have just a few trains that take you to all the major spots you ever want to go to. And now it's a breeze, and I can actually tell people how to get around, which I just never imagined back in 2015. There's John Hancock again. So I'm turning west on Ohio. Pardon the wind. In the Windy City. And what I want to emphasize about River North is that it's full of places to eat and things to do, but mostly things to eat. I love River North because of all the casual dining, bars, rooftop bars. It has a great local vibe while having a lot of options so that nothing feels too crowded and the waits aren't too terribly long for a majority of the places. Now, parking down here, you're seeing a lot of self-park garages. We do have quite a few options for parking, but it's really important to know that parking is expensive in downtown Chicago. And when I say expensive, we're talking $20 to $50 plus. So we always recommend to all of our guests that you want to get an app like Spot Hero to make sure you're getting really exclusive and good deals so that you're not paying for parking. And if you are staying in one of these downtown hotels, Chicago, as this whole video is going to show you, is such a walkable city that you can see all of our popular downtown neighborhoods by foot, which is really great. We do, of course, have wonderful neighborhoods that require taking a train, or it's a little bit easier to get to by train, and I always recommend exploring those. But a lot of people visit and they don't have time, or they don't have experience enough to get to those outer neighborhoods, which is why I started this channel. We want to show you all of those neighborhoods. So I plan not only to do a Millennium Park specific video or River North specific video, but I also want to show you Wicker Park, the Lincoln Park Zoo, buildings that I don't always get to take groups into, restaurants, the West Loop, South Loop, museum campuses, and our top attractions there, Navy Pier, Oz Park, just to name a couple. I also want to do some cemetery tours for you ghost and ghoulie lovers. We do have a haunted history tour. Seeing Pizzeria Uno there. Their claim to fame is that they invented the deep dish pizza. You have all heard of Lou Malnati's and Giordano's, but Pizzeria Uno was numero uno. And then, of course, if you can see it, Pizzeria Duo is just down the block. So I want to do cemetery tours. We have a haunted history and ghost tour that I give in the summer along with a couple other tour guides here, because of course I don't do it alone. We have a bunch of great guides in the city. But we don't often get to go to cemeteries, and so I thought it would be really great to do some of those. Here's Pizzeria Uno. See, established 1943. I believe there it is, yes. Birthplace of the original deep dish pizza. It's another thing I love about eating downtown is a lot of our restaurants have a piece of history with them. So you get to eat somewhere with great food that's lasted for decades for their food, but they also have something to show off. And oftentimes you can ask a server or a waiter about the restaurant, what place you're staying, and they can tell you a little bit about the history and what makes them unique. here on the left is Weber Grill. This is one of many steakhouse options in downtown. And I love them because they have a giant Weber Grill on top of their building, which I love touristy things. I love gimmicky things. And I just think that's adorable. Right, so believe it or not, we haven't been in River North long. We'll see a few more of the side streets, but basically River North is just full of bars and restaurants. We'll see a few more, like I said, but I'm actually heading south. We're going back across the river. We'll talk about the Riverwalk and the Loop neighborhood next. Up here on the right is another one of my favorite restaurants. Now this is a chain, so it's not a Chicago local spot, but Rock Bottom. Pro tip, if you ever want to have the most large and delicious platter of nachos brought to you on just a giant wooden board, Rock Bottom is my #1 favorite nachos currently in Chicago. I don't say that lightly. They also have a great rooftop in the summer. So this is State and Grand. State Street is of course iconic for the Chicago Theater, which we'll see in a moment, and a great place to just stick and walk to. Grand is also really popular for a lot of our rooftop bars, and a lot of your hotels will be on this spot as well. So that's Grand, and we're walking along State. I do want to be very mindful of sirens, wind, and street noise in general. So if I pause or I restate something, it may just be because we got cut off. So what I love about River North is that while you're on Mag Mile, there are hundreds and hundreds of people and very crowded sidewalks. But because there are so many side streets on River North, so many restaurants, so many bars, you don't get that congestion that you would get otherwise. Up ahead, you're seeing the Marina Towers, our famous corncob buildings. Those were, of course, by architect Bertrand Goldberg and Associates, 1967. And they have a very interesting history. I think I'll tell you, because there's not a ton to look at here. So Marina City was actually built at that time because people were leaving downtown Chicago. They were going out to our outer suburbs, or, Lord forbid, leaving Chicago entirely. And we needed to entice them back. So Bertrand Goldberg had a very unique idea, which was to create a city within the city that had apartments, shops, movie theater, an ice rink, a home gym, and an office building attached, which you can actually see right here, that would allow people to live, work, and play without really ever leaving their home. And this was an interesting urban experiment that I don't know if we can say was a success in the way that he maybe thought it would be, but now these remain condos and apartments, and many people enjoy living right downtown on the water. So I do like to think that Bertrand is smiling in his grave. Its unique shape is actually Bertrand's idea that no right angles exist in nature, so why should our architecture be filled with right angles? Or, you know, those harsh 90-degree lines. So he designed this to look like a giant sunflower, not a corncob. This is actually my favorite street on River North, and it's Hubbard Street, like old Mother Hubbard. Hubbard Street has some of the best rooftop bars. They also have amazing ramen at a couple locations on the street. and a couple Irish pubs as well. So a lot of great places to eat, a lot of great places to drink, if that's your thing. Hubbard Street is what you want to mark down to explore. So the Chicago Theater Marquee is just going to start coming into view as I walk south on State Street. And we'll talk about the Loop. I would love, if you are seeing this video, whenever you're seeing it, please leave a comment about any video you'd like to see, an area of Chicago you'd like explored, whether it's a neighborhood or just a topic, because this channel will also do a lot of, what to do in Chicago on a rainy day, or what to do in Chicago for a weekend. I'm on. Woo. Supposed to be walking here. Oops. If you were on a tour, I would not make you do this. But since I'm going alone, I'm braving it. So please leave a comment, questions we can answer. This wind is really bad right now. Just the typical noise of a downtown city. Someone's car alarm is going off. I don't know if you can hear me. This is the AMA Plaza. This was designed by architect Mies van der Rohe. There we go. So this is AMA Plaza. This was designed by Mies van der Rohe. I believe 1972, or just about. He's of course the famous architect who gave us the phrase, less is more. A simple architecture that didn't need any kind of ornamentation, which is exactly the opposite of pretty much every other building along the Riverwalk, including the Corncob building right across the street. So I'll pause for a moment here. You're seeing on the far right, this is our old jeweler's building. Absolutely gorgeous. You're seeing our carbide and carbon building over here, or the champagne building as it's more famously called, with an actual 24 karat rooftop that is meant to symbolize a cork being popped. And you can see we actually haven't gone far. Those, I hope my finger in the shot isn't annoying. Those little bridge entrances right there is where we began, and I've walked us back, giving you just a taste of Mag Mile and River North. Now we're going this way to explore the Loop in Millennium Park. What we're not exploring today is right in front of us, this gorgeous Riverwalk. The Riverwalk was completed in 2016 and now offers a completely uninterrupted walking path for visitors and locals alike to enjoy the skyline and just walk. And as someone who moved here in 2015, I cannot imagine the city without the Riverwalk. So I'm super grateful to it, and we of course offer a Riverwalk tour that walks along it every week. Another amazing steakhouse for you is Smith and Walensky. Absolutely love. They are a great steakhouse that offers a river view as you eat. Always recommend places that have a great view while you're dining. So now we're crossing the State Street Bridge. Seeing our Vietnam Veterans War Memorial there on the grassy steps. Great place to pay respects to everyone we lost in the Vietnam War. Point. If we were walking west, we would get to the two branches of the Chicago River at Wolf Point. We are not doing that today, but that will definitely be another video. Today we are coming into the Loop. Another gorgeous view of Carbide and Carbide. And if I can pan up the Joker's building, there you go. That's stunning. Alright, and then we're crossing the street on Wacker and coming into a completely different neighborhood, but another popular one as well. This is the Loop, named for that elevated train track that we're seeing right in front of us that we will pass under in just a moment. The Loop, as the sign suggests, is the gateway to our city. I always say that Chicago has two downtown neighborhoods. We have River North and Mag Mile and Navy Pier, which is our tourist downtown, and then we have our local downtown in the Loop. Not to say that tourists should not come here. We need you. We love you down here. But this is our 9-to-5 work culture. It's where folks come in from our north and south neighborhoods and west, and they get dropped off. And then this train track does a giant circle around the downtown area, dropping everyone off at their skyscrapers, because in the winter, we do not like to walk outside very long. And then it goes back out into those northern neighborhoods. I can smell Garrett's popcorn, which is funny because I am not close to a Garrett's popcorn. We will actually see a Garrett's popcorn in just a bit, and you'll see how far that smell carried. There's the Renaissance Hotel. Okay. So we are now, again, still on State Street. We are walking under the L, short for elevated. Coming out. There she is. Chicago Theater marquee. So I'm on State Street, that great street, as Frank Sinatra called it. We aren't staying on here long, though I could and will give you a full tour of this neighborhood later, including the Medieval Torture Museum, which is brand new. We have a lot of little museums like that. We have the Museum of Illusion and also the American Writers Museum down here as well. While we're walking by it, I will stop to show you some of the marquee. We have a wonderful tribute to Roger Ebert right here, who's of course famous film critic. So Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel, probably two of the most famous American film critics in history. And Gene Siskel actually has his own film center right there across the street. One of my favorite alleyways here, Couch Place. This is a very popular spot, this alleyway, for brides to actually get their wedding photos taken. So in the summertime, you will see brides under the Chicago marquee in the middle of this street getting their photo taken, literally stopping traffic, which it's their big day. Let them do it, right? Moulin Rouge is in town. We're about to see that theater. You're seeing advertisements for it all over. We're also seeing perhaps my favorite spot in all of the Loop, Marshall Field and Company, which I could definitely give you a full tour on. If you take our Loop and Millennium Park tour, you will start at the Chicago Theater, which I'll spin around and show you a nice view of that here. So our Loop tour actually starts here and tells you in great detail a lot more about this area. We go and visit Marshall Fields, which is now the Macy's building, which is why I'm keeping it moving today. But we'll be back. A lot of great clothing shopping now on State Street. If it's been a while since you've been here, you'll notice Block 37, which is a brand new building, but still all the good old shopping that we love. I'm turning right on Randolph, as we just explore the loop a bit and I point out a few things. State Street is great for shopping. We have so many theaters for live entertainment and also some great restaurants too. Just ahead of me is the Nederlander Theater. Prior to being the Nederlander, this was the Oriental Theater. And prior to it being the Oriental Theater, it was the Iroquois Theater, which was built in 1902 and is, of course, famous for the fire, the Iroquois Theater fire, that still remains one of the largest tragedies in American history in terms of single building fires and lives lost. That will be a story for another day, of course. That's a downer. So the Moulin Rouge is currently playing, which I hear is just phenomenal. And you can see folks waiting for the matinee. I am taking you to a very special spot right next to the theater, a place that I think everyone should visit while they're in Chicago. And that is, of course, Garrett's Popcorn. If you don't know about Garrett's Popcorn, it is probably our third major food group after deep dish pizza and the Chicago hot dog. Famous for their, which we can see right here, the Chicago mix or the Garrett mix, because Chicago mix is actually a trademarked phrase elsewhere. The Garrett's mix is cheddar cheese popcorn and caramel popcorn, put into a bag, shaken up, and transformed into absolute heaven. Big fan of Garrett's Popcorn because they allow free samples. We love a free sample with free tours by foot. Yum, yum, yum. Great lunch or dinner spot is right here on the corner of Randolph and Dearborn Street. It's the restaurant called the Dearborn. It's very easy to remember. This just opened up, I believe, in 2016. It's pretty new, but it's taken off. And then another great restaurant right across the street is Pettorino's. Pettorino's is a great spot for you theater fans to visit before your show and grab lunch or dinner, because Pettorino's has classic caricatures of all of the famous celebrities who have dined there. It's got a real Sardi's vibe if you've been to New York and visited Sardi's or ever seen that or looked that up. Pettorino's, I would say, is the Chicago Sardi's. I'm not sure if they'd like me saying that or not, but I am saying it. Right here on Dearborn Street is the Goodman Theater. This building, actually I'll walk down and show you, has been the Goodman for a decade or so now, but the Goodman is actually, as a theater company, the largest or oldest theater in our city. It's been around since the 1920s, and it moved into this space from its former home. I believe it was around the year 2000. I should know, I used to work here. Goodman Theater is phenomenal. They produce excellent shows. Currently there's a play starring Sean Hayes, Jack from Will and Grace. But it was initially actually two theaters. This is the Harris Theater and the Silwin Theater, Harris and Silwin. They were known as the Twin Theaters, and if you look closely, while they look at a glance like they are identical, you can see very tiny, tiny differences in the archways, where one has more of a Spanish and one has more of an Italian influence. So one thing, when I moved here and I saw the Goodman Theater, I was so excited to see a show, and I saw that it was right next door to the train tracks. And if you've been to the Goodman, you may know that the Owen Theater, one of two theaters that they have, two theater spaces, is actually right here on the corner, right next to the train track. And you would think that that would cause a problem with sound. And shockingly enough, it is built so well that that is not an issue. Another gorgeous view. Right behind it, the brown building you're seeing is our Daily Center. We're gonna walk there next. That's the Goodman Theater. Since 1978, they've been performing every December A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens classic. And it's a play with music. It's larger than life production value with costumes and sets. There's another view of that popular wedding alley. So if you're an actor just starting out or you're getting married, this alley is great for a head start. On the side of the theater building is still engraved the Oliver Typewriter Company. The Oliver typewriter was one of the first manual typewriters to exist, and they were headquartered in this building. So while they are no longer here, they remain on the architecture. You'll have to let me know in the comments how terrible my panning skills are, my zoom skills. I swear they'll get better. Maybe not a lot better, but a little. Our old McDonald's marquee. I believe McDonald's was taken by COVID here in downtown, unfortunately. We had a couple great restaurants that didn't make it through COVID. It was a hard time on our city, just like it was every city around the world. But we are bouncing back better than ever, right? Again, the Daily Plaza is right here. This was a building done by C.F. Murphy and Associates. It's made of Core 10 steel. So this building may look old and rusty, but the material is actually being shown off. We don't paint it on purpose to show off its age and its strength. If we were to keep going, we'd be over at City Hall in the Thompson Center, and also another theater, the Palace Theater, is just down Randolph there.
So Carol, no, I'm
No,
sorry.
you're okay. Oh, all good. It's a busy city. Again, we will explore the Loop and Dearborn Street in depth. Today we are going to keep on walking. And I hope this is getting across what I wanted to, which is just the walkability of Chicago. In just a half hour, we have actually gone into 3 major neighborhoods. Mag Mile, though we didn't stay there long. Mag Mile has a lot more to explore, so I certainly don't want you to think I showed you everything there. We just kind of touched Mag Mile, showed you a taste of River North, the Riverwalk, and of course now the Loop. But it just goes to show that you can really see a lot in a small amount of time, or if you have more time, you can actually spend entire days, entire afternoons exploring each of these neighborhoods. So now I'm walking onto Daily Plaza, which is one of the highlights. We spend a lot of time here on our Loop and Millennium Park tour because we've got just absolutely breathtaking architecture from the turn of the century in the 1900s through the 1960s. We're looking at the back side, of course, of the Picasso. I'll give you a nice kind of 360 view of Picasso so you can see it all. And all that gorgeous architecture behind it. This is where Halliburton and Roche built so many great buildings down here in the 1900s. Really powerful, expensive, long-standing buildings. And of course there is a little bit more of Picasso. And I'll pan up so you can see the Daily Plaza. People recognize this from TV and movies, of course, throughout the decades. Many of them. But probably the most iconic here on Dearborn Street would be Ferris Bueller's Day Off, the 1986 John Hughes film. That is an entire love letter to Chicago. Even Ferris Bueller's name, Ferris, is a wink from the writer and director of that movie, John Hughes, about Chicago. The Ferris wheel was, of course, invented here. So, what I want to do, of course, if we would continue down Dearborn Street, we would actually be in some of Chicago's oldest skyscrapers. And we are certainly going to explore that later on. But for now, I'm actually already going to turn and head east towards Millennium Park. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to take you inside the Chicago Cultural Center, give you a tour of that space, a full tour. So not a highlight tour. And I want to leave enough time to do that. And then what we will do is pop back out onto Michigan Avenue. We'll get a glimpse of the Bean and the rest of Millennium Park. And then we'll walk right back to where we started.
Sorry about that, man.
I'll do, as we walk, my shameless plug. If you haven't hit subscribe, go ahead and do that and hit that bell so you can be notified when a new video drops. I will be posting new videos every Tuesday. And we're also on Instagram. We have a Facebook group of traveler tips that is a really good resource from all of our guides, helping you plan your trip, make it really special and unique for you. We'll answer on their specific questions of, which restaurant might be best if you're stuck between two, or if you've read a review but you're not sure you trust it. You can ask our local guides and we will tell you the honest truth. So we are now back on State Street. Didn't go far. Chicago Theater right there. And as you can see, a lot more to explore. Each of these streets really can be their own video. When you want to break down the architecture and the history, and even the restaurants and things to do. I have to decide what I want for lunch today. I may be actually coming back to this Macy's because up on the 7th floor is the Chicago Grill, which has a great Chicago hot dog, and I'm thinking a hot dog would be a wonderful way to warm up after this tour. So this is actually, we're coming up on Jewelers Row, which is not a neighborhood that you may be exploring, but it is a great little feature of the Loop. Jewelers Row dates back before the 1920s, and it's just a bunch of small privately owned shops where you can go and get custom jewelry, custom watches, wedding rings, wedding bands, earrings, anything, bracelets you can think of. And this is a great alternative for folks living in Chicago who want something really unique to them. There you're seeing the sign for Wabash Avenue and Jewelers Row. If you're interested in jewelry, this is the place to be. You're getting a glimpse of the Trump Tower there as well. You can pan up so you can see that. That is our second tallest building in Chicago on our Riverwalk skyline. Trump Tower. And then right up ahead is where we want to be. It's the Chicago Cultural Center. It's this building right here. We're going to cross the street and go inside. You're also seeing in the frame now the Frank Gehry Music Hall that is in Millennium Park. We'll see that again when, a little bit closer up when we come out of the Chicago Cultural Center. But that is called Pritzker Pavilion. That's where we have a lot of our summer series films and music concerts, some of which are free. And we'll also do yoga on the lawn, a lot of just public activity while the weather is nice. We are out and about in Millennium Park. And this is probably another example of some buildings that were hit hard by COVID. Tony's Patisserie is unfortunately shuttered. Pittsfield Cafe is under renovation. I think they might still be open, but they look closed. All right, I'm gonna pause here just to show you. Make sure we get some good shots of our Chicago Cultural Center. So a little bit of history about this building. I'll wait for the train to go by behind me. The Chicago Cultural Center was completed in 1897, which is after the World's Fair of Chicago, which surprises a lot of visitors because it looks like it was built for the World's Fair. It's built in that same kind of style and architecture. But I've heard people describe it as we had a lot going on and we didn't have time to build our first ever public library until after the World's Fair, and we used some of the money to get that done. The interior of this building is one of my tops in Chicago. We're gonna see it right now. For those of you who like to read, this is a Shepley, Rooten and Coolidge building. Like I said, 1897, and it was our first public library. Now it's no longer a library. We've moved the books out and moved them south to another library on State Street. This is now a free public cultural center, and it is where you can see a lot of tactile art exhibits and some non-tactile art exhibits from up-and-coming artists and world-renowned ones as well. They do have special events such as concerts in here sometimes, so if that's happening, we'll have to come back another day and splice it in. But I'm gonna go ahead and go in now. Give me a look. Awesome. So, welcome to the Cultural Center. This is the main staircase that greets you. Because it was a library and because it was made of some of the finest materials at the time, marble and brass, they inscribed the names of some of the greatest writers in human history all over the building. So you're seeing Homer and Plato right off the bat. We'll see quite a few more as we walk through. I'm going to give you a pretty solid tour of this building. So there's Longfellow and Emerson. There's our Chicago emblem, of course, our three rivers meeting at Wolf Point, Hawthorne. A lot of recognizable names for a lot of you, Irving. Up here is Livy and Horace. And we'll see the rest when we're up on the second floor. Absolutely gorgeous. I want to take a look at the floor very quickly. This is our city emblem. It shows you the year in which we were incorporated, which is 1837. And it has our city slogan, Urbs in Horto, printed there as well, which is a Latin phrase that means city within a garden, or city in a garden. And the crown jewel of the Chicago Cultural Center is actually on its second floor. And if you happen to not know what that is, I'm gonna save it until we're up these steps. I'll give you a view just of the banisters and the stairway here. Everything is very well done. Just absolutely stunning to walk through here. And as a writer myself, I really wish it was still a library because this is where I would live. You would not see me anywhere but here. So, now that I'm on the second floor, I could give you another view of that archway there. So pretty. All the tiled mosaics. And then this is our crown jewel. Try not to fall up the steps as I keep it panned. There we go. So what you are looking at is the world's largest Tiffany stained glass dome. This measures 38 feet in diameter and has over 30,000 pieces of glass. So it is actually completely empty right now, which is so nice to be alone in such a gorgeous building. This will not happen in the summer, but we are just still in enough springtime that it is quiet. There's a symbol for the Chicago Public Library. The Rutledge and Coolidge architects. And then the chandelier as well. So over here is a view. Oh, these chandeliers are so pretty, guys. Just absolutely beautiful. You see different languages, hieroglyphics. I mean, the clock on the wall. Just more names as well. Moliere, Cervantes, little Don Quixote. And then the view is also just incredible. So this is Millennium Park. If you've never seen it, there it is. The Chicago River, where we were just walking, is actually right along here. And then we have what we call the front yard of Chicago, or the front lawn of Chicago. And that, what you're seeing in the lower right corner, hidden by the trees, is the Bean. So from here, it looks absolutely massive. While the Bean is large, I think this angle makes it look like it's equal to size to the Pritzker Pavilion. Another view here of Michigan Avenue. I don't know if I've ever been alone in the space for this long. What a gift. So I'm actually going to keep us moving. I do want to show you the inscriptions here on the second floor staircase. So first one's by Milton. Good book is the precious lifeblood of a master spirit, embalmed and treasured, on purpose to a life beyond life. Victor Hugo. A few more. By Bacon. And Isaac Barrow. And then you just see more authors' names inscribed everywhere you look. And the ceilings are just gorgeous here too. So, I want to show you Another thing you can do while you're in this building, before I pop us back out, I'm actually going to meet you back in the lobby to make sure I save this video. I'm going to let it hit a timeout, and I will see you on the first floor. Okay, I'm back on the first floor. So you didn't miss anything. I just went down the steps. I'm going to show you this. So the Chicago Cultural Center is the modern portion of it is a lot of art studios. And again, this entire thing is free. You notice that nobody stopped me at the door. Nobody was checking my ticket. Nobody, is really gonna bother you here. But something I love about the Cultural Center is you can actually pop into this shop and buy handmade art from the artists that are featured here. And it always has something new, something different. And I'm always a little, sorry, there's another tour happening. I'm always very aware that everything's very fragile here. But if you are looking for a unique gift or just something for yourself, this is just always a great place to start because you will find a little bit of everything, including a gold traffic cone. How fun. Really like that myself. Anybody needs to get me a gift. I'm kidding. So they have a gift shop. They have learning labs for local schools, public schools. Kids can come here for programs. There's always, again, new art, new things to do. It's also, and if you're on my tour, you've heard me say this, this is always going to be your closest, cleanest restroom downtown. If you're at the Bean, you can pop over here, and the restrooms are right down there. Now this mural is showing you the Great Chicago Fire. We're gonna take a moment, walk along that. So you can see the destruction of the Chicago Fire. When we say the entire city burned down, we mean it. The entire city. You're good. You're good. Thank you, though. I appreciate you. You can see that we mean it. The entire city was gone to ash. And the accounts you read, here's just some really just incredible photos of men rebuilding after all of the destruction. Something that I find just, as someone in 2022, you can't help but notice the way they're dressed. Because I think, in 2022, if God forbid this ever happened, you'd see us all in our sweatpants, not our top hats and suits. But the accounts that you read about the fire were that there was no landmark. There was no way, even people who lived here their whole lives had no way to know where they were because there were no street signs, there were no landmarks, there was nothing but the water, the river, to tell them where they were. And again, I'm really obsessed with the Cultural Center because to have all of this free, Chicago has a great history of having free things for its public. Our zoo being probably the number one, right? The Lincoln Park Zoo is entirely free and educational. And I'm obsessed with that. It's a great feature of our city. So this, as it implies, shows you the burnt area of Chicago. So, key in on the river here, right? Now this is really interesting, right? This is where Catherine O'Leary's home was. The fire spread, and note that it comes across the river. Some people don't know that our water was actually so polluted at the time with animal byproduct, fat, and just general pollution that the fire was able to actually catch and spread, and again on the main branch of the river, and expand north. People fled to Lake Michigan and stood in waist-high or knee-deep water. To protect themselves until the fire went out. All right. Now there's more to the Cultural Center. There are more art exhibits, more galleries. I am not certain that I should film any of those, so I'm actually not going to do that, but just know that if you do come here, you can continue to walk around this building and see the current art that is on display, and it's always changing, so it's worth it to come here a few times. There's also another dome in this building we're not going to see today. All right, heading back outside. Greeted by a cow. This is not the cow that caused the Great Chicago Fire, if you know that wives' tale. That story is not true. A cow did not start the Great Chicago Fire, Mrs. Catherine O'Leary's cow. This cow actually is a remnant, a mark from a parade that happened in 1999. It was a tribute to, I believe, a Swedish tradition of marching cows through a city. I used to know all the details of that, and I'll be an honest tour guide, I don't have them all, but what a fun and strange activity that I would have loved to take part in. So we are now on Michigan Avenue. Michigan Avenue, one of the best streets of the entire city. Just down this way is the Bean, which I love. It's right there, hidden in the clouds. It actually blends in so nicely, which is ironic considering its name, its actual name of Cloud Gate. That's right, it's not actually called the Bean. Just south, you can see the rooftop of the Art Institute of Chicago. If you were to continue to head south on Michigan Avenue, you'd hit the Art Institute, you'd hit Congress Hotel, you would hit Buckingham Fountain, and eventually you're on your way to our museum campus, which is very far. I would definitely not tell you to walk there. But we are heading north on Michigan, right back to where we started as promised. And our locals have behaved so nicely. I've filmed a couple videos down here. And usually we get someone jumping in to promote themselves. And I'm really happy to see that we didn't have that today. Rosebud restaurant right across the street, low on the horizon here. Great place to eat. Right next to it is a Giordano's. So if you're looking for deep dish pizza downtown in the Loop, Giordano's is a great option. Paisano's is also down here. We didn't get to see that today, excuse me. Oh, I have hiccups. I swallowed air. Paisano's is another really great option for deep dish. But you might want to go to Pizzeria Uno, the #1. You're seeing advertisements for Hot Tix, Hottix. They are a really nice resource if you are seeing some theater down here. You can get them online, but they actually do have a building just across the street from the north side, north exit of the Cultural Center is the Hot Tix booth if you want to go in person and get some discounted tickets. And a coffee shop that I've been obsessed with lately is a local chain here. It's called Dollop Coffee. Dollop, D-O-L-L-O-P. And there is one right inside the 150 North Michigan building. Seeing that. And across the street, more delicious options for you. A couple chains and a couple local favorites. So there's the Protein Bar, which has great kind of burritos and bowls similar to a Chipotle, I would say. Garrett's Popcorn, another option right across the street. You can get some milk tea at Bubblicious. right next to my favorite donut shop, which is Stan's Donuts, that nice pink donut shop. We will do, I think, a whole video on donuts for sure. You can also get your Nutella chocolatey hazelnut fix at the Nutella Cafe right here next to Nando's Chicken. These are just some of the best food that you can get if you've never been to the United States. If you've never had Stan's Donuts or Nando's Chicken, Nutella, I believe, is very special to Chicago. Everything on that menu at the Nutella Cafe is made of Nutella hazelnut spread. And I think there's one in Canada. A tour guest recently told me they had something similar. Right here at 180 Michigan is the American Writers Museum. This is one of those tiny museums I was talking about, like the Medieval Torture Museum. The American Writers Museum popped up, I believe it was 2016 or so, and is wonderful. It's small, doesn't take you a whole lot of time, and the price is reflective of that. But it gives you an entire timeline of Chicago writers, or I'm sorry, not Chicago, American writers, including Chicago writers, through our inception as a country, all of the writing movements we've gone through, and the devices, typewriters, paper, and everything that we've used along the way. Not something that I think many tourists take the time to visit, but if you are interested in writing or authors, it is wonderful. And you're seeing the Wrigley Tower come into view as we head back to Fort Dearborn, that original spot where Chicago got it all started. So it's interesting to note, again, if I was walking here in the 16, 17, 1800s, this would be the lakefront. Lake Michigan would be right in front of me. If you're interested in taking a walking tour, you can visit freetoursbyfoot.com. We're in cities all across the country, North America, Europe. You can also follow this channel, and you can follow other channels as well. We have channels in Washington, D.C., New York, New Orleans. Glimpse into Lower Wacker there. So underneath our feet is, this is Wacker Drive coming up here, and underneath is Lower Wacker, which is a great place to get lost if you're driving or walking. And then of course you're seeing the Tribune Tower straight ahead, John Hancock, the black building peeking out in the center. Give you a glimpse at Bye Bye Chicago, one of my favorite souvenir shops. And bye bye Chicago, as we say bye bye today, but we will certainly be back another day, and I hope you will join me, and I thank you for joining me today. If you'd like to tip your guide, there are links in the description below, as well as a link to our website where you can learn more about Pay What You Like walking tours. Thanks guys, enjoy Chicago.